Hi guys, thanks for tuning in to another episode of Nuggets News. Today we welcome a couple of special guests from the Cent project, and that's Cameron and Max. How you going, guys?
Hey, how's it
Hey,
going? Thanks for having us.
Now
yeah,
you guys have
excited to be
built
here.
you guys have built an income generating social network platform. So for the viewers at home that haven't followed Cent, what does that mean, and how do you guys get into this?
Yeah, so it's a brand new type of network. So we essentially allow users to do some things that they would normally be able to do on other networks, but on our network, you immediately earn money for doing them. And the underlying vision is that as robots and code and AIs begin to replace all sorts of swaths of human labor, what needs to what needs to exist is alternative ways for humans to generate income for themselves in a way that's completely mobile and in a way that doesn't require technical skill from the human, and in a way that also captures something that's unique about the human, because there can be robots and computers that are way smarter than you, but they're not uniquely you. And so we wanted to think of ways that you could essentially inject your unique perspective into a network and have the network have a structure such that the value that your perspective has provided to other people gets turned into financial value for you. And so we have a variety of mechanisms that do that I'm sure we'll go into, but that's sort of high level what we aim to accomplish.
And how is that very different to Facebook and these other siloed platforms that are using our data and extracting the value rather than us getting the value?
I mean, that's a great summary, actually. So like the big thing I think with other networks is that you're providing data for the advertiser to use. That's your real function. And the network ultimately is mining our not only our data but also our creative content, which is I think what we focus on a lot. It's, Facebook doesn't actually create any content really itself. It basically takes all the content of 30% of humanity is on Facebook, and so it takes all of the content of that chunk of humanity and acts in a sense like it's content, because then it sells the advertising space as if it's created it, in the same way that if Rolling Stone or some big publication wanted to sell advertising, they have to write really good articles and get a big readership to sort of earn that level of advertising value. Facebook and Twitter and these other networks, they don't really earn it. They just sort of leverage the fact that all these great creators happen to be on there because they have to be in order to engage with the world, and then they sell it as their advertising space. And then at the super high levels, if one particular creator is earning them, like on YouTube, if one particular video creator is earning them millions and millions a year, they might give them a little bit. But it's really, the network's design is not to allow people who are sharing and actually creating the content to earn a living off of it. And ours is really based on that to the core.
That was my next talking point about how we have this top-down approach, and even YouTube must reward content creators less than 10%, I'd say, off the top of my head, compared to
Oh
some
yeah.
of these other platforms that are now starting to directly reward the content creators. And I'm sure you guys follow Gary Vee, and he's always talking about the value that everyone is going to create, and you can never have too much content as an individual or business. So this is just leveling that playing field.
Totally. Actually, I spoke at a conference with Gary Vee a few months ago. He's a really awesome dude, and especially in person, he's like such a presence. But yeah, I think he's very much in alignment, I would say, with what we're doing. And I think that there's an emergent, I would say, creator class of people who are just sort of, they realize that ultimately, if they want to be the most future proof in their value that they provide, they need to be, in some sense, an individual creative entity that's getting their own individual following, so that they're sort of untethered from whatever organization they happen to be employed by or anything else at the moment. It's sort of all just about how much does the world understand you, and how much are you affecting them with what you're making.
And this is kind of shaking up the legacy model, because anyone can be a content creator. Someone might find a young person in Africa with a basic smartphone super interesting with what they're doing, and all of a sudden they are getting this money coming in, which previously wasn't possible, with micropayments and all that sort of thing as well. So at the moment, what stage are you guys at with what you would compare? Is it mostly people posting images like Instagram, or videos like YouTube, or what sort of stage is the platform at the moment?
It's at an interesting stage. So we, just to give a little background for everyone. So we launched we're still in beta technically, and we launched the first version of the beta, maybe we could call it the alpha, at the end of 2017, and we launched with this one feature called bountying, and essentially Cameron's a crypto developer, and we sort of we're good at just sort of whipping out product pretty quickly. And we put our heads together, and we were both wanted to monetize content in an interesting way. And we thought to ourselves, like, what can we build in 3 weeks that we would actually use, and that would some way leverage, technologies that would enable new experiences that couldn't be built before. And this bountying concept came up, where essentially you can make a post. Often it's some sort of request, and you could say, hey, a common first one was, hey, I need a logo for my band or company or something, and I'm going to put a financial reward on my post as a reward for replying. And so people can come along, they can say, oh, they need a logo, let me try to do that logo, here you go. And then the person will get a bunch of different logo options in this example, and then the user base comes along and they vote on what the best answers are, and then automatically the money that was allotted as the reward for the post gets distributed to the best replies. And that's just one example. People use it in many different ways. There's people who just want to enhance their social following elsewhere on other networks, and they say, follow me on Twitter, here's a $20 reward, and it gets distributed amongst like 100 people. Or they'll say, hey, I need to I'm trading crypto, I want some research done on this random coin, can you like compile like 2 pages of research? And you can really make anyone do anything for a few dollars, which is kind of crazy. And we've seen it used in just countless different ways. And so we thought that was pretty cool, and we really started to grow just from that. We still to this day haven't really done any marketing. It's all been just organic word of mouth. Like, we made 1 post on Reddit when we started, that's it. We are going to start doing stuff soon. We're getting a really nice video made, and we're going to start sort of walking that line into feeling much more like a professional marketed thing. But up until now, it's really just purely organic. And so we grew a lot from from bountying. And then last year we introduced seeding, which was the culmination of a lot of internal work and a lot of internal research on how do we monetize, how can you make a post and not have to put up money ahead of time, but how can the post, to the degree the network finds it valuable, just immediately generate you money, specifically in a way that doesn't rely on people just being altruistic. Because there's a lot of tipping services out there where you can just like throw people money. And we wanted to come up with a way where somehow money could go to you, but it doesn't rely on that. And actually it could rely on the opposite. It could somehow rely on the other person being selfish in some way. And so high level, how it works is that someone comes along, they have a post, they think, oh, that's a cool post. And then they also think that other people will think it's a cool post or a valuable post. And they seed it with money, which means the money gets sent to the creator, but also to everyone who came before them that seeded that same piece of content. Yeah. So what it creates is a pretty cool little loop where if you're one of the early people to identify and support content that ends up being identified and supported by other people, you'll actually make a financial profit for sort of curating well, or for having really accurate taste. And so it's a great experience because, you see a song that you think is cool, you give it $1, you come back tomorrow, you made $3, which while financing the creator's life somehow. And so it really has been successful, but we're also working on some new stuff that we think is also pretty exciting. But at high level, bountying and seeding are sort of our 2 main incentive mechanisms, and then our whole social network sort of revolves around them.
Yeah, I read a lot about those bounties and how I can say, look, I'll give $1 to everyone that creates a logo for me and $10 to the winner, for example. That's the fantastic concept. And with seeding, one of the things we saw on Steam, it was the early adopters just become so powerful and have so much weight. Is that something that you guys have thought about, how that's going to work going forward? Do early adopters have a huge advantage with things like seeding?
Well, so we don't have a token, so it's somewhat of a non-issue for us. With Steam, you had some Steam whales who had outsized influences in the community, but since we are sort of not confined to a single token, we're actually, well, I guess we are, but it's ETH, right, which is very widely distributed. So, I mean, if you're an ETH whale and you're looking to get some influence in social media, I implore you to come to Cent and just dump it all on seeding and whatever you want to curate to your will, because I'm sure our creators will love the money that comes from that. But yeah, in all seriousness, launching a token for a specific app has its weaknesses, and that is an example, Steam, and how its network dynamics function. And so we're sort of immune to some of that, as well as some of the complexities that seem to keep Steam in sort of like an esoteric category of social networks. the mechanisms of the blockchain, the fact that they have 3 coins, etc., don't really pave way for adoption in many respects. So,
yeah. So getting into the technical side of things, guys, we know that the ETH blockchain currently can't store a lot of data. So this gets uploaded if I upload a video to IPFS. And do you want to talk about the benefits of that currently, and maybe why you chose ETH at the moment with its sort of limitations, and where you see that going in the future with scaling and how that changes things for you guys?
Yeah, so for us, the only part in which we really use ETH is for the payments aspect, routing money between users. For things like content storage and user management, if you notice when you go to Send, for instance, it's username and password. It's Web 2.0 login. And that was very intentional on our part, because a lot of these concepts around a wallet and signing and transactions, these are very new to people. And we're taking the approach of wanting to be a social network that really touches mainstream. And so we've, in a sense, simplified as much as we can, while still leveraging the benefits of a payments network like ETH. ETH in particular over other networks was particularly appealing for us because it had smart contracting built in, whereas Bitcoin, Lightning is up and coming, and there's talks about doing interesting contracts in Lightning, but it's still very early, whereas ETH was sort of built ground up for that. And so we rolled our own solution that has payment channels between users of our platform, which has been great because we've had 700,000 payments routed between users, and only a tiny fraction of them actually settling on chain, which has been immensely helpful to us, just getting a platform out there and in people's hands that's usable. Because if you could imagine having hundreds of thousands of transactions, if they were all on chain, you would be bogged down with slow confirmation times, waiting for 12 confirmations or whatever, and then B, the unpredictability of gas prices is just a very bad user experience. So if someone fat fingers, puts the gas too low, the transaction never goes through. That type of stuff is never going to fly with mainstream, and so we try and take as much of that out of the user experience as possible.
So you guys have built your own state channels, is that, or is it?
Yeah, so it's not full-fledged state channels, it's payment channels with some extensibility built into it. Yeah. But yeah, when users sign up, they don't need to have anything, and then they can set up their wallet once they receive money. Awesome. And then spend it just by signing a message. They don't have to actually do a transaction on chain.
Yeah, similar to Funfair, we did a great interview with Jez Sand, and that was the next question. One of the things he spoke about was onboarding users and that Web 3.0 sign up, which has been a real barrier to entry. So what's the plan for you guys? Do you see those network effects taking off in those developing countries more than the US and Australia maybe?
Well, it's a little bit interesting because right now, our main sort of mission is to get people consistent income via a social network experience. And we have a lot of users. We have users in over 180 countries right now, and there's only like 200 something countries in the whole world. And a lot of those countries are, obviously not Western countries, and those countries, making $50 a week is a huge deal. Like we've had people been able to quit their second job just from using Send already. I mean, no one really in the Western world is doing that yet, but we're very aware of the fact that right now we're attracting a lot of people that who could really use smaller amounts of money immediately in a way that's fair, in a way that's not like just giving it away in a charity sort of way. And so from there are the users essentially who need to figure it out are figuring it out, but that's really not good enough. I think that for mainstream people, for non-crypto people, which is basically everyone, I think we kind of forget all the time that we're very we're 0.00 nothing of the world, and for those people, we honestly don't really want them to even know too much that they're using crypto. We kind of wanted to treat it as like an invisible plumbing. Yeah. That it facilitates all these interactions. It helps us as a company legally and in a lot of other ways, but they don't really have to know. So for instance, one of the things we're thinking about, one of the parts of the UX is that you're dealing in ETH, which has a lot of general belief in the wider world, but it also changes in price at least a little bit. Like the $1 will change to like $1.01 and stuff like all throughout our UI because it's live updating with the price of ETH. And so one thought we've had recently is potentially moving Sent over to a stable coin like DAI or something that would sort of make the experience much more immediately understandable to non-crypto people. Like, oh, there's a monetary value. The monetary value stays the same. Like that's such a baked. We're used to that, all those things fluctuating, but for normal people, it's odd that they fluctuate. And so, so we're doing a lot, and we're also potentially teaming up with some other companies that specifically tackle Web3 onboarding in interesting ways. I don't know if Cameron, you want to go into how we're thinking about it.
Yeah, I mean, just high level, we're going to try and partner with the best. There's some, I won't drop any names, but everything from having a wallet in the first place to being able to use your debit card. We sort of see these initiatives as very core to getting mainstream users onto the platform, spending money, ultimately earning money, that sort of thing.
And what else have you guys got in the pipeline going forward? I know you were focusing on chats and messaging and that sort of thing as well.
Yeah, so that's very new. So that's sort of what we're working on right now. We think that there's a big experience, I think, that's emerging of people just realizing how awesome chat-enabled things are, like Slack and Discord and DMs and Facebook Messenger and Instagram DMs. It's just it makes any app just feel much more lively and in the moment. And it's also just the preferred way for most people, it seems, to interact. And we obviously want people interacting on Scent. And so it's definitely a step in a direction that we want to go. On another front, we're, again, always trying to get people more and more consistent money per month. And so we've also been thinking around ideas of, people that need specific tasks done, people that, they may see that a video creator on Scent shares a lot of amazing videos and they need, their video edited. There might be, in the future, a more dedicated UI for engaging with that particularly awesome video creator in a way where you can exchange services, maybe something like a crypto Fiverr. We've also thought about, for creators you just want to support on a monthly basis and get some sort of crypto incentive for doing that, evolving into some sort of crypto Patreon type feature. So there's all those are sort of at play, but in general, always moving toward just any feature that feels like it should obviously be there, or any feature that is sort of an incentive mechanism that feels like it could work quite well. We're definitely tossing around.
Sure thing. So I'll put you guys on the spot here a little bit with everyone talking about STOs being the new hot thing. I actually don't really agree with that. I think we're going to see a move back to these like early projects that have been busy building. So you mentioned Maker and Dai then, but what other projects are you guys really excited about, think can have the most impact?
Well, I would say the one that I'm most excited about, and I've been excited about for some time, is this one called Althea, which is mesh networking, internet providing, using micropayments routed between internet providers. I honestly haven't kept much up to date with some of the latest stuff in the space. Dai is really interesting. I have not followed anything about STOs. To me, they just seem completely like, okay, using blockchain for the sake of, like, whatever. Trying to think anything else. I don't know, Max, does anything come to mind?
I mean, I think I remember specifically, I think more recently than Cameron, sort of not being a crypto person. Like, I feel like even just like 3 or 4 years ago, I was sort of just a normal person. And so the things that resonate with me are the things that are immediately understandable and almost like the highly, highly technical projects, which I sort of at some level understand, like, oh, that's really impactful and that will, provide the understructure for all this other stuff. Just doesn't personally get me as excited, just because I can't like imagine it in someone end state's hand. And so the ones that really get me going are the things, anything dealing with NFTs, I find really interesting. Anything dealing with bridging the, for me, outside of Scent, I love making music and doing artistic things. And I have a bunch of friends who are artists, and one friend who runs this thing called the Blockchain Art Collective, and they have this little what are those things called? I'm blanking on the name. Little thing you like, it's got like a little microchip in it, and it's like you put it in like a piece of clothing or something, or behind a piece of paper, and
like an NFC chip or something.
NFC, yeah, I get NFC and NFT mixed up. But so it's an NFC chip, but then that NFC chip is associated with a transaction on a blockchain, and so it can, make works of art sort of be proof that it's authentic, and pretty much anything that's explainable in 3 sentences to a normal person, I find exciting. Awesome. But that's not a ton of things.
Well, guys, I'll put all the links in the description below for people to check out Scent, but any final thoughts for everyone at home?
Yeah. So if you're out there and you want to join, we're the fastest growing social network.
Oh,
It,
that
Well,
just
that's
cut out a bit
Very-
there,
Very
Max.
back up and yeah.
Oh, okay.
What
Sorry.
are we?
So, sorry. We're the fastest growing social network on Ethereum, and it's a really burgeoning community of creators, of thinkers, of doers, of people that need to get stuff done and need other people to do it, and also people that just want to meet other people in right now who really understand crypto. And it's just, if you really want to have if you have like a sort of minor following on other networks, it's a really great time to jump onto Cent to get a really huge following within Cent, because you'll be a bigger fish in a smaller pond right now. But in a few months, we're probably going to be a lot bigger. So just putting that out there.
Awesome.
Also, I'll add, we draw a lot of inspiration from other services. And so if you're like a fan of Reddit or Twitter and you're feeling somewhat burned out by those communities, definitely Cent is a fresh place to check out. There's micropayments involved. It's fun. You write something and you come back the next day and see someone tipped you for a couple bucks, and it adds fuel to the fire that is social media and online engagement.
I've certainly been trying to share my best content there and earning a little bit for that. So thanks again for joining us today, guys, and good luck with everything.
Cool. Thank you so much for having us.
Cheers, guys.